Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance. Bringing out all of the receipts. Fear is not in the habit of speaking truth. When perfect sincerity is expected, perfect freedom must be allowed. Nor has anyone who is apt to be angry when he hears the truth any cause to wonder that he does not hear it.
I was interviewing a guy one time and he started talking about the black Israelites and we're the real Jews. And I was like, and it wasn't on camera, but I was like, it was so far out to me that I was like, we'll never kind of understand common terms on that.
In the age of information, ignorance is a choice.
The children of Yasharal, since their inception until now, have always been black. And what I mean by the use of the term black is phenotypically Negroid, black African. This is the original phenotype of the Asiatic Semitic Hebrew, the original Asiatic black man. Medium to dark olive brown skin, woolly hair, almond-shaped eyes, wide nose, thick lips, and a Negro skull shape and skeletal body build. Anything deviating from this requires a phenotypic qualifier, not the other way around. Saying black Jew, black Hebrew Israelite, or any variation of that is unnecessary, since being a Semite, Hebrew, and an Israelite are all synonymous with being a Negro.
The earliest ancient sources speaking on the subject of the origin of the Jews, such as Strabo and Tacitus, describes them as being phenotypically black or Negroid and having their inception in Africa. This video will cover multiple authors, images, and maps from ancient to modern times attesting to the blackness or African heritage of the ancient Hebrews, a people commonly mistaken for Canaanites, Phoenicians, Ethiopians, and Egyptians by white Europeans. Okay, type into your search bar mit.edu. Select search. Type in Tacitus, The Histories, Book 5, or just Tacitus, The Histories. Alright, you're going to scroll down here, and we're going to click here. Alright, we're going to select Book 5 here. The Histories by Tacitus, written 109 of the Common Era, translated by Alfred John Church and William Jackson Brodrib, Book 5, 70 AD. Early in this year, Titus Caesar, who had been selected by his father to complete the subjugation of Judea, and who had gained distinction as a soldier while both were still subjects, began to rise in power and reputation. As armies and provinces emulated each other in their attachment to him, the young man himself, anxious to be thought superior to his station, was ever displaying gracefulness and his energy in war. By his courtesy and affability, he called forth a willing obedience, and he often mixed with the common soldiers, while working or marching without impairing his dignity as general. He found in Judea 3 legions, the 5th, the 10th, and the 15th, all old troops of Vespasian's. To these he added the 12th from Syria, and then men belonging to the 18th and 3rd, whom he had withdrawn from Alexandria. This force was accompanied by 20 cohorts of allied troops and 8 squadrons of cavalry, by the 2 kings Agrippa and Sohemus, by the auxiliary forces of Antiochus, by a strong contingent of Arabs, who hated the Jews with the usual hatred of neighbors, and lastly, by many persons brought from the capital and from Italy by private hopes of securing the yet unengaged affections of the prince. With this force, Titus entered the enemy's territory, preserving strict order on his march, reconnoitering every spot, and always ready to give battle. At last he encamped near Jerusalem. As I'm about to relate the last days of a famous city, it seems appropriate to throw some light on its origins. Some say the Jews were fugitives from the island of Crete, who settled on the nearest coast of Africa about the time when Saturn was driven from his throne by the power of Jupiter. Evidence of this is sought in the name. There is a famous mountain in Crete called Ida. The neighboring tribe, the Idai, came to be called Judai by a barbarous lengthening of the national name. Others assert that in the reign of Isis, the overflowing population of Egypt, led by Hieronymus and Judas, discharged itself into the neighboring countries. Many again say they were a race of Ethiopian origin, who in the time of King Cepheus were driven by fear and hatred of their neighbors to seek a new dwelling place. Others describe them as a Syrian horde, who not having sufficient territory took possession of part of Egypt, and founded cities of their own in what is called the Hebrew country, lying on the borders of Syria. Others again assign a very distinguished origin to the Jews, alleging that they were the Ptolemy, a nation celebrated in the poems of Homer, who called the city which they founded Hierosolyma, after their own name. Okay, type into your search bar Internet Archive. Click select and click here on the search bar. We're going to type in Strabo geography. Okay, scroll down. We're going to select book 7 here. Well, yes, book 7. It's actually books 15 to 16, but volume 7. Alright. We're going to go to page 281. And now expand the screen. The section that we'll be reading is right here. As for Judea, its western extremities towards Cassius are occupied by the Idumeans and by the lake. The Idumeans are Nabateans, but owing to a sedition they were banished from there, joined the Judeans, and shared in the same customs with them. The greater part of the region near the sea is occupied by Lake Sirabanus, and by the country continuous with the lake as far as Jerusalem. For this city is also near the sea, for as I have already said, It is visible from the seaport of Iope. This region lies towards the north, and it is inhabited in general, as in each place in particular, by mixed stocks of people from Egyptian and Arabian and Phoenician tribes. For such are those who occupy Galilee and Hyricus, and Philadelphia and Samaria, which last Herod named Sebaste. But though the inhabitants are mixed up, the most prevalent of the accredited reports in regard to the temple at Jerusalem represents the ancestors of the present Judeans, as they are called as Egyptians. Okay, type into your search bar Internet Archive. Select the archive here. Alright, type into the search bar the Negro in the New World. Alright, we're going to select this book right here, The Negro in the New World, Sir Harry Johnson. Alright, we're going to go to page 27. Alright, expand the screen. And we're going to read this paragraph right here, but before we do, we're going to enlarge it. The Elamites of Mesopotamia appear to have been a Negroid people with kinky hair, and to have transmitted this racial type to the Jews and Syrians. There is a curliness of the hair, together with a Negro eye and full lips, in the portraiture of Assyria, which conveys the idea of an evident Negro element in Babylonia. Quite probably, the very ancient Negro invasion of Mediterranean Europe, of which the skeletons of the Alps Maritimes are vestiges, came from Syria and Asia Minor on its way to Central and Western Europe. Alright, type into your search bar Library of Congress. Select here. Select the search bar and then type in the races of the Old World. Scroll down. We're going to select this book right here. Click here. Click on image. And we're going to go to image 322. Select go. And we're going to scroll down here so we can see the whole image. And and we'll expand the screen. Alright, now with the screen expanded, we're going to read from here down to here. Well, actually, we'll read from here down to about here, okay? A large portion of the brown and black tribes of North Africa, as has been shown, belong to the same family as that which first originated commerce, which invented the alphabet, produced the sublime Hebrew poetry and Arabian science, and which was through many ages in one of its branches the special medium fitted by Providence for transmitting the most elevated religious inspirations to mankind, and in which the divine manifestations of Jesus Christ was made. The Semitic Negro can certainly never be considered by the worshippers under a Semitic religion as inferior in blood to themselves. Still, another group of peoples, both brown and black, many fully black, are descendants of that family, which erected the ancient empires of the Euphrates, and which unknown centuries ago built the pyramid tombs on the Nile, and founded the gloomy art, the artificial civilization and sciences of Egypt. Alright, type in your search bar Library of Congress. Here, type into the search bar Tribes of the Caucasus. We're going to select this book here. And we're going to image 41. We'll scroll down. All right. Now we're going to read from this point right here down to here. These pursuits have brought them into close connection and intercourse with the so-called ancient or black Jews scattered over the interior of Asia from China to the Caspian Sea. But their chief seat is at Bokhara, where they reside in great numbers, having a mysterious political organization under native princes. There is hardly any doubt of their being descendants of the 10 lost tribes. Alright, type into your search bar the British Museum. Select here. Choose the menu and search. Type in Assyrians. Alright, we're going to scroll down. We're going to go to Galleries, Assyrian Lion Hunts. Click on this. And we're going to scroll down. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a virtual tour. Alright. Now that we're in the virtual tour, we're going to rotate our view. We're going to be looking at this panel right over here. So I'm going to turn it a little bit more. Try to square up on it. Alright, we're going to try to zoom into this image right here. It's not going to be perfect, but try our best. Okay, that's all allow us to zoom in. I'm just going to try to reposition this. Alright, you can see Assyrians right here with the helmets on, their helmets. Syrian soldier right here. These are your captives from Lachish, right here, in here. You can see their hands folded in like a praying position. This image is also in the Oxford History of the Biblical World, a book, and I'm going to put the image right over here so you can see it a bit clearer. But what you'll notice is their features of both the Assyrians and the people of Lachish, the Judeans. You'll notice the tightly curled hair, the afros, the beards, the eyes, the nose, and just kind of take a moment to examine it. This is what the book The Negro in the New World was referring to about the Negro element in the in ancient Mesopotamia and among the Assyrians and their captives right here, the Judeans from Lachish. Alright, type into your search bar University of Cambridge. Select here. Go to search. Type in Faculty of Asian and Middle Eastern Studies. Select here. Select search and type in Chaldeans. Select here. Alright. We're at University of Cambridge, Faculty of Asian and Middle Eastern Studies. We have Chaldean soldiers with Hebrew captives. Chaldean soldiers are depicted with Hebrew captives in the 11th century Bristol Psalter. Here we can see Chaldean soldiers. They have the hats on their head and they're in the standing position, and the Hebrew captives are right here. You notice that they look nearly identical with their dark olive brown skin and afros. And if you remember, the Hebrews are an offshoot of the Chaldeans, so it would make sense that they look very similar, if not almost identical. Okay, we're going to type into your search bar wikimedia.org. Click here, Wikimedia Commons. Type in terracotta head marked Hebrew. Hit enter. We'll click on this. And we'll select here. Terracotta head of Semite marked Hebrew by Petrie from Memphis, Foreign Quarter, Egypt, Greco-Roman period. The Petrie Museum of Egyptian Archaeology, London. You can clearly see a dark brown skin, brown olive colored Hebrew or Semite with his afro. Here's a description. Date, it was I guess published here. The author. Alright, we're going to go to the search bar. We're going to type in collections of the Hecht Museum, and we'll spell it H-E-C-H-T. We'll click here, figurines. Figurines in the Hecht Museum, and what we want to look at are these three images here. So we'll click here first, and what we have is a figurine from Egypt of a Semitic slave. You can see the dark olive skin color, his beard, which is typical of how Semites are depicted in Egyptian art, his short cropped afro, and his hands bound behind his back. You have a description right here. We'll click here. In this image you can clearly see his hands bound behind his back. And let's take a look at the other image. Yep. And see, we have a frontal view. He even has this collar, which you'll see. A lot of Zulus will also wear a collar like this. So this is typical, like you'll see in Africa, not just among Egyptian culture, ancient Egyptian culture. You'll see it also among different modern tribes within Africa. So what we'll do is we'll copy this right here, and we're going to go to Google Translate. We'll select Hebrew to English, and we'll just paste that right there. And
צלמית של שבוי שמי, ידיו קשורות מאחור, ממצרים העתיקה. אסף מוזיאון הכט.
A figurine of a Semitic captive, his hands tied behind his back, from ancient Egypt. Collected by the Hecht Museum.
we'll go back to the image, and this is the image that they're talking about. We'll type in Wikipedia. Type in Cochin Jews. Cochin Jews, also known as Malabar Jews or Cochinim from the Hebrew, are the oldest group of Jews in India, with roots that are claimed to date back to the time of King Solomon. Alright, we'll look at two images. We'll look at this one here, and you can get a good look at the people. This is a more modern image. And we're going to scroll down. And we're going to look at this one right here. Jewish couple depicted in 16th century Portuguese Códice Casanatense. Here we have Judeos Malamuros. You can see that he has a afro here and dark olive skin. She does as well. And this guy right here in the tree.
And in America today, you see a very large movement of African Americans who say that they're the real chosen people, that they're the children of Israel, they're the Judeans. You know, so what are they just trying to create an identity for themselves because they were slaves, or is there really something here? And the answer is, most likely there is something there. And most likely, maybe that they were the original Israelites, and maybe that the Jewish people today who are white, Caucasian people came in a little bit later on.
We have to remember one thing I think is very important, that the white Jews that we see today have no bloodline connection with the Jews of the biblical period. They were converted to Judaism in Europe and in Russia. They were converted and have no bloodline connection with the black Jews who make up the biblical Israel that the Bible writes about and of which Jesus was a part.
But what happened to the black Jews?
The black Jews are still in existence. There are black Jews in America. There are black Jews all over Africa. There are black Jews in Palestine. There are black Jews everywhere. Diane's daughter complained not more than 2 years ago that black Jews had moved on either side of her house, and therefore her property had depreciated in Palestine. Black Jews had depreciated her property. Jews had moved directly from Palestine to India, and the community celebrated its 1900th anniversary or something, and they had white Jews who had immigrated from Europe and black Jews who had originally come from Jerusalem at the fall of Jerusalem, had an uninterrupted straight line of connection from the fall of Jerusalem to India. All over the world there are black Jews, but the Zionist Jews who had been converted to Judaism have taken over the control of the definition of what Judaism is, as white people do with anything. If they come into it, they take it over and define what it is, as you stated in your introductory statement. So we have to remember that white Jews, when you see them on the street, are not the Jews of the biblical period. And that sometimes confuses black people who ought to be black Christian nationalists.
1 Maccabees, chapter 3, verses 47 to 48. They fasted that day, put on sackcloth, and sprinkled ashes on their heads, and tore their clothes, and laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images.
Well, I think the basic reason or symptom or proof for the racism of the Christian church is the simple fact that white people have pretended for so long that Jesus was white, and that they've had the necessity to interpret Jesus as being white, when essentially white Christianity is racially, is historically false and theologically absurd, and practically, in terms of its effect on black people, it's a debasing institution that enslaves black people. I think we have to understand, though, that we're not making moral judgments here. Any institution that exists in any society exists to serve the interests of the people who set it up. And Christianity began as a black man's religion. It's an African religion. We have to remember that Israel went into Egypt with 70 people, and after approximately 750 years came out with over 2 million people, and hordes of other slaves who came out and became also a part of the emerging new nation of Israel. So Israel, the biblical Israel, was a black nation, an African nation that came out of Africa and kept constant ties with Africa. And so we have to remember then that Jesus was a black Messiah, not a white Messiah, and he comes out of the whole historical background of Africa, of African traditions, of African history, of African culture, the concept of communalism, the concept of a chosen people, the concept of kingdom of God on earth. All these things were out of African tradition, not out of the white man's tradition. And Jesus was essentially a revolutionary Messiah who was trying to lead a black people in a revolt, in a struggle and conflict with a white Gentile oppressor. So the whole church has to be viewed from the point of view of the white oppressor. The white oppressor has one kind of Christianity, has one kind of church. The black church has to become independent and go back to the historic African roots of Christianity, because the slave church that the white man set up for black people tends to continue the enslavement of black people. So the black church has to become, again, a revolutionary instrument in the hands of black people, controlled by black people, fighting, as Jesus fought, for the liberation of black people against white Gentile oppression.
The Rising Tide of Color Against White World Supremacy, Lothrop Stoddard, page 69. Insofar as he is Christianized, the Negro's savage instincts will be restrained, and he will be disposed to acquiesce in white tutelage. Madison Grant, The Passing of the Great Race, or the Racial Basis of European History, pages 78 to 79. The Native American, that is, the white American, has always found and finds now in the black men willing followers who ask only to obey and to further the ideals and wishes of the master race, without trying to inject into the body politic their own views, whether racial, religious, or social. Negroes are never socialist or labor unionist, and as long as the dominant imposes its will on the servient race, and as long as they remain in the same relation to the whites as in the past, the Negroes will be a valuable element in the community. But once raised to social equality, their influence will be destructive to themselves and to the whites. If the purity of the two races is to be maintained, they cannot continue to live side by side, and this is a problem from which there can be no escape.
You go to Israel, the blacks are just treated like dogs.
So do you have to treat them like that too?
The white Jews, there's white Jews or black Jews. Do you understand?
And are the black Jews less than the white Jews?
100%, 50, 100.
And is that right?
The major problem of Israel is with the young generation of the black community. Black Lives Matter starts there.